What's going on, guys? I'm just driving around the city, talking a little bit of boxing news on my lunch break. But before we get into the video, if you like this video, don't forget, give it a thumbs up, sub, and hit that bell when you sub. With that being said, let's get into it. So, Anthony Joshua, does he fight Tyson Fury or does he fight Usyk? That is the real question. And I am going to say this. I believe, honestly, he should fight Usyk. Now, people are going to get mad at that. Why should he fight Usyk? Usyk doesn't deserve it. Usyk hasn't done anything in heavyweight. I've heard that argument. Who has Usyk beat? Chaz Witherspoon, Chisora? I've heard that argument. No, the reason why he should fight Usyk is AJ has said from the very beginning he has one mission in mind, one goal that he wants to accomplish, and that is to be undisputed. If he drops that WBO belt, then he can no longer be undisputed. No matter how many people want to say, well, he beat Tyson Fury, he's really undisputed. He's not, because it can be debated. If it can be debated, then it's not undisputed. And that's the thing about it. So by his own admission of what he wants to do, he has to fight Usyk, period. I don't care what people want to see, because I want to see the Tyson Fury AJ fight as well. But in order for him to do what he says he wants to do, he needs to fight Usyk. With that being said, Tyson Fury's not even out of the woodworks about getting around the Deontay Wilder 3 fight. It's still in mediations right now, and I think it's going to be a mediation until the end of this month, and we won't know till the beginning of January what the mediator finds. And then there's the question of, can that finding be appealed? If it can be appealed, how long is it going to be held up by appeals? So Tyson Fury might not be able to fight for at least a few months if he doesn't go with the Wilder 3 fight. And if he does go with the Wilder 3 fight, then you would be looking at the end of next year before the two could fight, which would be perfect for AJ to fight Usyk first. So no matter how this goes, to me, it just makes sense that AJ will fight Usyk. One, that way he doesn't have to drop a belt. So when he beats Tyson Fury, you know, if there is a rematch clause, then they can have the two fights, and then he doesn't have to worry about where the other belt goes in the meantime of their two fights to try to pick it back up. That's the thing. What's the easiest route to undisputed? Well, the easiest route to undisputed is you beat your mandatory Usyk, then you're free to fight whomever you deem. We already know on the WBC side, there is no mandatory at the moment for Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder if they fight again, and the winner out of that gets the WBC belt. We know that. Why do we know that? Because Povetkin, who should be the mandatory, is in a contracted fight to fight Dillian White for that slot. From the way that it is read to me, if Dillian White beats Povetkin, then that mandatory date gets reset right then to wait another 12 months before they get a shot at the title. If Povetkin wins in the rematch, that's when the timer starts. I don't think it gets backdated to when he won the belt. So no matter how it goes, when they fight in January, which is the date that they're projected to fight right now, that's when the timer starts. So that means that the WBC champion, whomever it may be, whether it's Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, if Tyson Fury fights, say a tomato can and loses, they are not obligated to fight that mandatory until January of next year. So that's a whole year. So again, it just gives room for undisputed to happen uninterrupted if AJ goes for Usyk first, which is what I believe he will do. On the flip side of that, Usyk is adamant that he is not stepping aside, that he refuses to step aside. And when he's asked about it, he gives one answer: undisputed. Hold on, let me try to talk like him. Derek, undisputed. I know that was horrible, but the Derek was dead on. Don't lie. But he's not going to step aside. So if AJ doesn't fight him, he will be by default the WBO champion, and then he'll have to fight whoever he has to fight to validate that belt. But he will be the current champion until he fights somebody for that vacated belt. So again, it doesn't make sense for AJ to jump straight in there with Fury. I know people will argue, well, that's the fight we want to see. We wanted to see AJ versus Wilder, and then they both lost. Now it doesn't have the same build up around it. It's not the same anymore. They're not undefeated. And I don't get underneath that mindset, because this is my mindset. If Anthony Joshua would have lost twice to Andy Ruiz Jr., right, then I would have rather seen Andy Ruiz Jr. get in there than AJ. Because at the end of the day, undisputed is to sort out who the best of the division is, because you have so many belts. So if these guys lose to somebody else, I don't see it as being lackluster. I see it as them not being as good as the guy that beat them, and the guy that beat them now deserves that slot. A new king has taken over. That's how I see it. So if Deontay Wilder beats Tyson Fury in the third fight, if it happens, then to me, the buildup between AJ and Wilder is just as big as it used to be. Regardless if they've lost or not, they both regained their titles and regained their supremacy in their division, at the heavyweight division. So again, I don't fall into that mindset that steam is lost and all that BS, because again, the best should be fighting the best. And the only way to know who truly are the best is for those best to fight other best. And if they can't beat other best that are considered worse than the other best, then obviously they weren't the best. I know that's a lot of best, but you got to keep up with it. So again, I think the fight is just as big today as it would have been 2 years ago, in my honest opinion. In fact, the fight might even be bigger if Wilder comes back and beats Fury and AJ beats Usyk, or if Fury beats Wilder again and AJ beats Usyk and then they fight. It may be even bigger, may even do more numbers. I don't know. Because again, there's two ways you can look at a defeat. One, it can make you worse, and two, it can make you better. With AJ, we'll have to see if it's made him better. He looked impressive against Pulev. My only contention with how he looked was, I don't think he's showing the same type of power that he used to have, because I believe he's lost too much weight. Again, that is just what I'm visually seeing, but that doesn't take away from how good of a fighter he is and how well he dominated Pulev. I think he did a great job. I think it was a great fight. My critique of him has nothing to do with that fight. It has to do with what I've seen in his last two fights concerning his power, especially when he's going to be in there possibly against a guy like Tyson Fury, who's going to be faster, have the longer jab, who's going to move better, who has better head movement, who's got better defensive skills. Like, the only thing AJ in my mind held over Fury was that knockout power. So if he doesn't have that one advantage that he used to have, or that advantage that he used to have is now narrowed and the gap is closing between the two's punching power, then AJ is going to be in some serious issues. And that's the only thing. And again, if this was AJ 2 years ago before he lost to Ruiz, I was looking at it like I didn't think Usyk had a chance. But after seeing these last two fights, I think Usyk can give him a run for his money. Now, will he beat Usyk? I believe he can beat him. I believe he will beat him. But right now, what I'm seeing from that power, I think Usyk has a very good chance at outboxing AJ. I don't think AJ is going to just go in there and knock him out. I think, judging off of what I saw Pulev take from him, and judging what I saw Andy Ruiz take off of him, and knowing that Usyk's got a granite chin as well, I think it's going to be a much harder fight today than it would have been 2 years ago due to that weight loss. But I could be wrong. Again, the only way to know is to keep seeing them fight. And who knows, maybe 240 is the magical weight for AJ. I just don't think it is. But I'm going on a tangent and getting off subject. The bottom line is this. AJ is not going to drop the belt. If he does drop the belt, then I won't say it's a duck, because it's not really a duck, because I feel like Tyson Fury's the harder fight. But I will say it's a little hypocritical, because he said numerous times that he refuses to drop titles, that he wants them all. And if he dropped that title to fight Fury, even though I believe it is the harder fight, then he would be hypocritical by not sticking by what he said, that he's going to keep them all and he's going to win them all. And although he may have won them all, if he lets one go, he doesn't have them all. And that takes away from undisputed. And I have always believed, and I have always maintained, and I've been on LDBC channels arguing with people, and I'm only bringing them up because they're a big proponent for Wilder. I've said from the beginning that I truly, even though I critique AJ with some things, I truly believe that in his mind, he only wants one thing, and he's only wanted one thing, and that is to be undisputed. AJ strives to be great. That's what I honestly believe. And no amount of subs joining or leaving my channel off of what I say will change my opinion and will not make me say things differently. I truly believe AJ wants to be undisputed. And because I truly believe it, I do not think there's any way possible Eddie Hearn is going to talk him into dropping that belt. I believe he's going to fight Usyk unless Usyk does say he will step to the side, which everything I've heard Usyk say, he's not going to do that. So AJ's next fight, in my opinion, is going to be against Usyk. And I'm only bringing this up today because last night I was on Mark's channel, Unrivaled Boxing, talking news. Shout out. And we were talking about AJ a little bit. So, and then earlier that day, I was on Iron Kong's channel talking about the performance of AJ. And then, for whatever reason, Wilder got brought up, Fury got brought up, and it kind of went, off topic from his actual performance. But I was on 2 panels on Sunday talking about it. So that's why I figured I'd make a video on it. But again, like I said, I do not believe AJ will drop a title, and his next fight will be Usyk, without a doubt. I have no questions to that. And I'm going to say it right now without having any proof of paperwork that will be the next fight. And it should be the next fight. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Do y'all agree? Do y'all not care about Undisputed anymore? Do you think he should drop the belt and fight Usyk? Write in the comment. If you agree with me that that Usyk's not going to step to the side, AJ's not going to drop a belt, then write in the comment section. Let me know. Don't be scared to comment because I reply to everybody. Thank y'all again for listening and watching.